Okay, I I'd like to try this video. I want to talk about the divine council. There's a lot of controversy about that in biblical scholarship. Um, Before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, the main consensus in biblical circles were that the sons of God in the Old Testament referred to the lines of Seth or human kings or some other um, explanation. However, when we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, and even in the Septuagint, it's pretty clear that the sons of God, in reference in the Old Testament, always referred to angelic beings. So God has a government, right? He assigns the angels as his divine counsel. And I got arguments that's lined up to support that. So let me begin with my arguments here. All right. The first bullet point is we have heavenly court scenes show an angelic assembly. Now, I'm doing this all from the ESV, the English Standard Version, because they reflect what's written in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's why I'm using it. All right, so in 1 Kings 22:19 through 22, we have a picture of the Lord on his throne with all the host of heaven, right? Another name for the divine council, on his right and left. In Job 1:6 and 2:1, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, with the Satan among them, Satan, or Nakash. Job 38:7. The morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. In Daniel 7:9 through 10, an open court with 10,000 times 10,000 attending. Isaiah 6:1 through 3, seraphim around the throne. And Zechariah 3:1 through 7, the angel of the Lord with the accuser present. They all depict a real celestial council of obedient and rebellious spirits under God, not human officials. Right? The second bullet point for my argument, sons of God and holy ones, our language aligns with angels. In the ESV, Bene Elohim and related terms are rendered as heavenly beings. Psalm 29:1, ascribe to the Lord, O heavenly beings. Psalm 89:5 through 7, assembly of the holy ones, council of the holy ones. And Psalm 103:20 through 21, his angels, all his host, his ministers, show a category of non-human celestial servants sharing council language elsewhere applied to gods. The next bullet point. Psalm 82 reads naturally as non-human angelic powers. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Verse 1. They are called sons of the Most High. Verse 6. Yet told, like men you shall die. Verse 7. Which distinguishes them from human judges. The cosmic scope, all the foundations of the earth are shaken, verse 5, and the parallel holy ones. Council imagery in Psalm 89 favor supernatural beings. Deuteronomy 32, verses 8 through 9, supports a heavenly allotment under God. In the ESV, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob his allotted heritage, implying a distribution of the nations under subordinate heavenly beings, with Israel directly under Yahweh. The New Testament equates Old Testament gods with angels and places them in governance roles. Hebrews 1:6 cites Psalm 97:7, worship him, all you gods, as let all God's angels worship him, identifying the Old Testament gods with angels. Paul speaks of rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. Ephesians 3:10, 6:12, Colossians 1:16, and says believers will judge angels. 1 Corinthians 6:3, implying a structured, implying a structured angelic order that participates in divine governance and judgment. The council functions include deliberation and delegated agency. In 1 Kings 22:20 through 22, God asks for proposals and commissions a spirit. In Job 1-2, permission and limits are set. In Daniel 4:13 through 17, the ESV, a watcher, a holy one, and the decree of the watchers. Decrees go forth through heavenly agents under God's sovereignty. Classic council activity done by angels. Extrabiblical and interpretive witnesses. The Septuagint and early Christian interpretation. The Greek Deuteronomy 32:8 reads, according to the number of the angels of God, making explicit the angelic identity of the sons of God. Hebrews 1:6 use of Psalm 97:7 shows the New Testament's reception history, equating Old Testament gods with angels, reinforcing the divine council members are angels in Christian reading. The Second Temple Jewish literature. 1 Enoch, especially chapters 6 through 16, and Jubilees expand on sons of God / watchers as angelic beings with authority who fell. The Dead Sea Scrolls frequently speak of a heavenly council, such as 1QS, the council of the community, in concert with holy ones, 1QM, war scrolls, angelic princes, or the 11Q Melchizedek's exalted heavenly figure, reflecting a live angelic council concept in Jewish thought of the period. The ancient Near Eastern background, reframed biblically, Ugaritic texts depict El, their name for the Most High, presiding over a council of lesser Elohim. Israel's scriptures borrow the court imagery, but consistently subject all other beings to the one creator, rejecting polytheism while retaining a populated heavenly administration. Modern scholarly synthesis. Michael S. Heiser, and this guy, we have to give him full credit. He's the one that came up with the Deuteronomy 32 worldview of the divine council. And other evangelical scholars argue that Old Testament Elohim / gods, sons of God, holy ones, and hosts of heaven, they refer to non-human spiritual beings, what later theology calls angels / demons, forming a divine council beneath Yahweh. This view has gained broad and popular level and scholarly engagement. Concise evangelical explanations. Accessible summaries highlight passages like Kings 22 and Psalm 82 and connect them with New Testament scenes of angelic conflict and judgment, like Revelation 12, Judges 6, 1 Corinthians 6:3, presenting a coherent angelic council framework. Old Testament to New Testament identification of terms. Some evangelical resources note that beings called gods in Old Testament council scenes are what the New Testament and later theology consistently labeled angels or demons, supporting the identification without endorsing polytheism. Anticipated objections and concise replies. Objection. Human judges in Psalm 82. The Psalms contrast, like men you shall die, and titles sons of the Most High, the cosmic scope, verse 5, and the council parallels in Psalm 89 better fit celestial beings than Israeli magistrates. Objection as far as the polytheism concerns. The ESV consistently portrays a singular creator God enthroned over all beings. Psalms 89, 6 through 8, Isaiah 40 through 48. Council members are created, contingent spirits, angels, whose authority is derivative and judged by God. Psalm 82, Job 1 through 2, and 1 Kings 22. Objection. Ambiguity of sons of God. The ESV usage elsewhere clearly applies this phrase to heavenly beings. Job 1:6, 2:1, 38:7, and renders related terms as heavenly beings / holy ones. Psalm 29:1, 89:5 through 7, reinforcing the angelic reading. Biblical patterns. ESV passages depict a real heavenly assembly under God's throne. 1 Kings 22, Job 1 through 2, Psalm 82 and Psalm 89, Daniel 7, Isaiah 6, whose members are called sons of God, holy ones, host of heaven, and gods. Terms the New Testament applies to angels. Hebrews 1:6, Ephesians 3:10, 6:12, and 1 Corinthians 6:3. Historical reception. Jewish Second Temple literature, the Septuagint, and early Christian exegesis read these beings as angels. Modern scholarship and evangelical treatments articulate the same identification within a rigorous monotheism. There's a lot of arguments here that support the divine council as spiritual beings and not humans. And I think this is important because once we realize the importance of the identification of the divine council, we can read the rest of the Bible with a more clear idea of what those stories come to mean. Thank you for listening to my video. Please subscribe and like the video, of course, only if